Good evening. It's good to see everyone. Good to see those of you who are joining online. Um, I'm sorry that you don't get a sucker the way that people who are here are enjoying their lollipops. But it's everyone deserves a lollipop tonight. We just wanted to open up this sacred space, understanding that the culmination of this incredibly difficult time brings out different things for different people. No doubt a sense of exhaustion and overwhelm for so many, and also for many a sense of fear and anger and alienation and questioning and anxiety about what's to come. And if I haven't named your feelings, you should feel free to name it for us later when we speak. But I think it felt important to have an opportunity to be together and to do the things that our religious tradition says that we should do when there are major events in our lives and changes and potentially very difficult moments that our song, our prayer, our study has sustained us, and that it is not intended that we live in the kind of environment that we do, which is with constant flow of, as I mentioned in Yom Kippur, information and stimuli that are intended to keep our minds churning all the time, and our attention going all the time, but actually to get through times of difficulty and to summon the strength to meet them and show up in the ways that we know we need to, it is important that we can hear our own voices and hear the voices of each other and to hear the voice of God. And so this is a time to do that. And so we're going to sing a little bit, we're going to study a little bit, and invite you to mentally and emotionally be wherever you need to be here in this room, and it'll be the same on Friday night as well. In the story of the Exodus from Egypt, there is the plague that's most remembered as being the most horrible, of course, is Makat Bechorot, the slaying of the firstborn. But in Rabbi Sharon Browse's book that many of us just read together, she points out the rabbinic wisdom that actually the plague of darkness was also incredibly difficult and terrifying, that this plague seems like it shouldn't be so bad, but the way it's described in the Torah actually reminds us about how frightening times like that can be. And so I just want to share a bit of those words before we sing our first song. And God said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward the heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, darkness which may be felt." And Moses stretched out his hand toward the heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all of the land of Egypt for 3 days, and they could not see one another. And so no one rose from their place for 3 days. And if we imagine a darkness so thick that it can be felt, and that it can be so confining, that kind of darkness, that we are not able to reach out to each other, we're not able to see one another, and we're not able to rise from our place and reach out, that is a terrifying place to be. And I think there are a lot of reasons why we might feel in that darkness right now. One may be the outcome of the election, and another may be how far apart we are from half of our neighbors. And in our state, maybe we feel far apart from even more than half of our neighbors, but the idea that we clearly don't see one another. We are not able to understand. We can't see hands in front of our faces. And we are so caught in this darkness that we have not reached out. We are not reaching out to one another, and that alienation is also terrifying and painful. It is also a plague. So naming the darkness that we may feel right now, let's remember, which we're going to try to do throughout the evening and throughout the week and throughout the month and throughout the year and many years to come, that these periods of darkness or periods of storm, periods of fear and anxiety, in our text, they do not last forever, that there are reprieves from them, some that we bring about ourselves and some that God and the universe bring about. So we'd like to begin by singing the words that are on the top of our song sheet. These are words of political philosopher Michael Walzer, who notes how transformational and important the story of the Exodus is for all those who are a part of liberation movements. And our prayer book adapted his words to say, we are in darkness a lot. We're in Egypt a lot. In fact, probably anywhere we live can feel like Egypt sometimes, a narrow place where we can't see and we can't escape and we can't even breathe. But the only way out of that place is through a tumultuous sea and through a wilderness that we can only cross arm in arm with one another. So the Nigun goes like this, and then we'll sing Walzer's words a couple times. Lie, da da da, da 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 da, lie, da da da, da da, lie, da da da, da da da, lie, da da da, da da. So it sounds like we know it. Are we on, do you think? Can you hear the guitar? Okay. Let's do the Nigun again, and then we'll do his words. La da 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 da, la da 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 da, la da 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 da, la da 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 da. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it's eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, and the rising way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together, singing So for our first couple texts, I'm going to come around. Maybe I will. Okay, so for our first couple texts, we're on where it says Baba Batra, this Talmudic text, but I want to sort of frame it out and what these couple texts are about. That we are asked in difficult times, which is all the time, but maybe particularly at a time like this, to hold multiple feelings at once, and sometimes one that dominates over the other, but we're also mandated by our tradition to move forward. You know, we're not allowed to stagnate. We're a journeying people, and so this text is talking about how people moved forward after the temple was destroyed, which, if we can imagine, we read about this at Tisha B'Av, but if we can imagine a destruction of everything they thought they knew so severe that they had no idea how to live. And what were they supposed to do? How do they carry that determination to move forward at the same time as this catastrophic loss and uncertainty? Because the future was void of everything that they thought they knew and believed about themselves, about their neighbors, about God, about where they could be safe. And this is what they say. So it's a little tiny, but I want to share it with you, and then we'll react to it a little bit. Our teachers taught in a Baraita, when the second temple was destroyed, the number of people who refused to eat meat and to drink wine increased in our community. So people were withholding. Rabbi Yoshua addressed himself to them and said, "My children, why do you refuse to eat meat and drink wine?" And they replied, "How can we eat meat, the meat that used to be sacrificed on the altar but is no longer?" You know, meat reminds us of what used to be, what we thought we were doing, and we don't want to do that. How can we drink wine, the wine that used to be poured out in libations on the altar that is no more? Then Rabbi Yehoshua replied, "We should not be eating bread, because grain offering has also ceased. By that logic, we just start sacrificing everything that reminds us of what was." "Then we will eat fruit," they responded. "But," he went on, "we really shouldn't be eating fruit since the offering of first fruits has ended." Of course, he's just making absurd arguments to lead them where he thinks they're going to go. But he went on, "Oh, we really shouldn't be eating fruit. We will eat other kinds of fruit," they responded. And he went on, "Should we be drinking water since we can no longer make the water libation?" He said to them, "My children, listen to me. We cannot refrain from mourning. The decree has been carried out and the temple is no more. But we cannot mourn in the way that you are doing, because we do not make laws that people cannot keep. Rather, this is what our sages say we should do. When we plaster our houses, we must leave a piece of wall unplastered." There's, of course, the little specification. Rabbi Yosef says it should be a square cubit, and Rabbi Chisda says it should be the opposite the entrance. Thanks very much. And when we prepare a meal, we should leave out something small. Rav Papa says a small fried fish. And they get sort of in their own heads, and when women put on their cosmetics, they should leave something off. Thank you very much. Rav is going to weigh in and say she should save some hair away from her temple. As it says, "If we forget you, Jerusalem, let my right hand forget its cunning, and let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth." So I wonder what this brings up for you in terms of what kind of existence is this sculpting out for these people who have lost everything and are struggling to find joy? What is Rabbi Yehoshua saying about how we proceed and the weight of carrying both joy and sustenance and also mourning? You can answer aloud, or you can talk to a neighbor, or you can just talk to yourself. But yeah.
I'll forgive you, but I won't forget what you did. I'll forgive. I will forgive you.
And so there's some, you're not allowed to put down those really hard feelings completely, right? You have to keep the morning with you.
Like you can't just kind of indulge yourself with all these things in the morning, like, oh, we're not going to have the food, we're not going to have the wine, we're not going to have this. We're going to have this reminder that we're going to move forward, that we're still going to have these meals, even if they don't have to have.
Yeah, right. The small fried fish. Without the small fried fish. Yeah. Yeah, there's this, we like to wrestle. We're wrestling people, and we're like a balancing act kind of people. And he's saying you have to have both, right? You cannot forget that this has happened. It has to affect you. It has to affect you at your meal, and it has to affect you when you get up and get dressed in the morning, and it has to affect you when you equip your house with plaster. It has to affect your material possessions, and you should still get up in the morning and put on your cosmetics or whatever you use, and you should still eat and enjoy your fill, and you should still build your house and repair it. And that is, it's very, this idea of moderation and holding multiple feelings is very us, right? It's very Jewish. Yeah.
There's also this way, like the Steph says it should be this, Rabbi Yisda, like Rabbi Rob has this. It's like also that you want to feel this sense of control. So like they're sort of relying on their rules. You go like, this is what you're going to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like no, take this side, take this side, small fish. Like it's just control.
Mm-hmm. I wonder there may be a lot of societal reasons why that exists, but what do you think is the emotional or utility?
Control the horrible thing that happened, but you can control like this spot on the wall you do not.
It's really interesting that building, right? Like you're building and you're plastering, and in the building you have to handle this broken thing, right? This lacking thing. So usually we think of building as completion, as an activity of completion, and then you're asking people to.
You build something that's a little bit. Yeah, you build something that's a little bit incomplete, or it helps you remember that building is going to involve some deconstruction or some destruction. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Very poignant.
There's only one day that this kind of morning is supposed to happen on. Or find out. And even then, there's a million traffic. Like there's a million outs if you can't do it. And also, I can hear the rabbis like, what do you do like every day from before? Like you're gonna die pretty quick. You're not gonna sustain.
Right, and that's not
all the things that you are now needing to do.
Yeah, I mean that's the idea that we were just with some of our teens, and we were talking about the lack of real important tradition of martyrdom in Judaism. We don't do that. This like idea that you succumb, even for the sake of others, is not. It's not embraced by tradition. That there's a moral imperative for us to stay alive and move forward, and because we can't do the important work we have to do in the world if we stop eating and we stop drinking and we stop and we exist in that state of mourning in Yom Kippur every single day, then there will never be rebuilding, and there has to be rebuilding. So I wonder if we just turn, oh yeah, Rabbi. Oh, sorry. What's our normal now? What's our normal practice now? How do we let these values flow from us now when certain avenues are closed off from us? Which has been it's like the most broad strokes question of our people is when, and I think that I'm not intending to center us in this moment, but to say our story has been one of renewal and creation and creativity, because we have had to, because there always has to be building and forward motion, and it can never look like what was, because what was has been destroyed. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we learn it. Maybe we learn important things about ourselves in times of crashing. Yeah, I will look at Martin Buber here on page 2 and then sing again. This is very beautiful. The Rebbe was asked, "What is the right way, that of sorrow or that of joy?" Okay. He answered, "There are 2 kinds of sorrow, and there are 2 kinds of joy. When a person broods over the misfortunes that have come upon him, when he cowers in a corner and despairs, that is a bad kind of sorrow. The other kind is the honest kind of grief of a person who knows what they lack. The same is true of joy. One who is devoid of inner substance and in the midst of empty pleasures does not feel it or tries to fill their lack is a fool. But one who is truly joyful is like a person whose house has burned down, who feels their need deep in their soul and begins to build anew. Over every stone that is laid, their heart rejoices." We're very grateful for Buber. I think we could be grateful for him tonight. So I think that one speaks for itself as in plain language. But to think about that and what rebuilding, the deep joy of rebuilding after crashing and destruction and crumbling. And there's a lot of need for rebuilding. And the deepest joy, according to this Hasidic wisdom, is stone by stone that's laid, which feels like a gift to make every little bit of progress in that kind of building.
Olam chesed yipaneh, yedai, dai, 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 dai. Olam chesed yipaneh, yedai, dai, 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 dai. Olam Olam chesed yipane, yedai, dai, 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 dai. Olam chesed yipane, yedai, dai, 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 dai. I will build this world from love. Yedai, dai, 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 dai. And you must build this world from love. Yedai, dai, 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 dai. And if we build this world from love, yedai, dai, 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 then God will build this world from love. Yedai, dai, 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 dai. Olam chesed yipane, 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 yedai, dai, 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 dai. Ooh, yedai, dai, 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 dai. Ooh, yedai, dai, 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 dai.
I wanted to offer a little bit of a teaching tonight. One of my really, truly favorite and one of the first bits of Talmud that I ever learned in a very deep way, more than just reading a translation and then hearing what others had to say and read about it, but really doing the depth of the word, the language, the literary construction of it, the sort of connection to other texts. So if I can ever just draw everyone's attention to this text, it's on page 3. It's from a bit of the Babylonian Talmud section called Ketubot. And Ketubot, as you might know, a ketubah is this marriage contract, right? That two partners write many times with each other, or it's written for them, and it spells out really, in essence, the covenant that they make with each other. What you owe to the other, what you will ask for from the other, sort of makes the hearth of your home. And they're really beautiful. And in the middle of this bit of Ketubot, the rabbis are talking about what today we might call work-life balance. And they're saying, and we'll have to use the gendered language that they use, of course, but they're saying that, you know, the man in this family, the man in that family, in every family, you're gonna have different jobs or obligations. And yet, your ketubah says that you owe your wife your presence, your love, your intimacy. You owe it to them. That's part of what that ketubah spells out. And so they said, well, how often? Because they're lawyers, right? How often do I have to do this? And so the very top, it says, the sages of the Talmud are discussing the following law, or what would be called a Mishnah. Men of leisure, that is, you don't really have to work, right? Men of leisure have to return home to their wives every day. Laborers have to do so twice a week. If you're a donkey driver, once a week. A camel driver, once every 30 days or once a month. And sailors, this makes sense, once every 6 months. And this is what Rabbi Eliezer taught. And so, of course, Talmud goes on and is talking more about this. And they get to this story one of the rabbis offer about this rabbi named Rechume. And it says, it was said regarding Rabbi Rechume that he would constantly sit and study for hours and hours on end in front of his mentor, Rava, at the yeshiva in Mechoza. Mechoza is the LSU, right? There are some that are maybe more famous, but this is sort of like top-notch academy that you go to learn at. And you're not learning just in your own home, you are traveling, it's far away. And you're not learning with just a chavruta, although you would be studying with somebody next to you, but you're learning from a mentor. And this mentor is so well known and so
that they're given this name, Rava, the great one, probably the head of the academy. And not just a little bit in the morning and then you go and you learn how to woodwork or whatever for the rest of the day, all day, hours and hours. And so Rabbi Rechume was accustomed to returning back lebete, to his home, every year, once a year on the eve of Yom Kippur. And one day, he was so immensely engrossed in the halakha, in the law that he was studying, that he lost track of time and remained in the study hall. He did not return home. Meanwhile, Beit-Hu, his wife, was expecting him all day long. She stood in the front doorway of their home, continually saying to herself, now he's coming, now he's coming. But in the end, he did not come. She was distressed by this, and a tear fell from her eye. At that exact moment, Rabbi Rechume was sitting on the roof of his yeshiva, still studying, and the roof collapsed under him, and he died. And so I want to say that I first learned this in person, but perhaps the most famous teaching, you can find this, the most famous teaching of this was by a former member of the Knesset, the Israeli Knesset, named Ruth Calderon, who is a secular, feminist, Talmud scholar, which is a whole lot of contradiction all in one description. And she said, I want you to imagine almost like a movie split screen, that this one single tear is falling, and as soon as it hits the ground in disappointment and in despair, the roof caves in. And she was teaching this in the context of talking about, at that point, Israeli society, how there is this big divide, that there are some people who put down or never even pick up weapons or agricultural tools, and they go and sit in yeshivas and they study, because that is, in their mind, in their truest understanding of what it means to be Jewish and to bring about God into this world, to study is the greatest thing you can do. And she said, and in our society, there are also people, whether recently or in generations before us, put down the Talmud and put down the Tanakh and picked up gardening equipment and today pick up guns. And they believe that that is the way to make sure that Israel stays strong and stays resolute. And so you have this divide, but really, they're all one family. And I could not help but think about this text over the last 24 hours, maybe even longer than that, because there's so much depth here about really what I think we're all maybe not feeling at the surface, but we recognize that there are different tribes, there are different conglomerations, there are different manifestations of what in this country people truly in their guts, in their kishkas, believe holy is the right thing to do. And they are feeling diametrically opposed to others who feel just as certain that what they believe and what they are voting for or what they are working towards is absolutely the right way. And what it really makes beautiful here in this text is a couple of word plays. So first, Rabbi Rechume, some of you might know that this, if you look at the root right here, it comes from the root rechem. Anybody know what rechem means? It's your womb. And also the letters resh, chet, mem that make up rechem, if you add those all up, they equal 248. Does anybody know what that is in Judaism? It's the number of positive you shall commandments in the Torah. And what we have here also is this wordplay of Beit-He, his home, and Beit-Hu, his wife. That your partner, your spouse, the one that you are most beloved to, the one that you don't have to like all the time or don't have to agree with all the time, but the one that you have chosen to tie yourself to and to have an intimacy and to have a depth of relationship and love that is not with anybody else, that those are the same things, that that person, that partner is your home base. And that when one of them doesn't fulfill, the other one can't be fulfilled. And that in fact, grief, despair, which feels like a little bit of hurt, pain, perhaps even a little taste of some sort of death, can also lead to the other feeling or experiencing something the same, that we cannot have equality or balance with those two. They cannot fulfill each other or be the best of themselves without the other one. Your home is your beloved, and your home is where you feel safest, where you feel most energized. We all know that home is not where everything is always hunky-dory and everyone gets along great, but it is where those things can be most healthfully and most spiritually addressed if you just find your way back to your other half. And sometimes your other half can feel really far away from you, politically, if not others, not in other ways. And yet, they're still your other half. They're still your home and your partner. And all of these things bring about the wholeness of home and the love of home, and also, who knows what can come from the rechem, from the womb, of bringing those two disparate, those two arguing pieces back together. Perhaps something really beautiful can be born. So I hope that we all take this and think about that as we breathe deep and perhaps interact with people on a daily, weekly, or minutely basis with whom we deeply disagree. And just remember that there is that human and that other partner there in front of us, that we can find some positivity and some love and some draw back to each other, and then we will be home.
Yeah, any comments? Sorry. I just thought that was.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, that rechem, womb, is also the same root as rachamim, or compassion. So, yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm gonna write that down. That's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Reactions, thoughts? Yes. Yeah, you have to be willing to put down all the best teacher, the best academy, the best place, the highest roof, the whatever, and you have to be able to put that down and just return home. Even the best concentration, yeah, yeah. Yeah. If you're studying Torah and not acting Torah, exactly, right. Thank you all.
About close to 15 years ago, I was a chaplain at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and each week we would have a service, an interfaith service, and I got to share some of that time with Reverend Joe Cleveland, who was one of my colleagues there, is now in New York, and he shared this song. He did it his way with the banjo, but we'll keep to the guitar today. It's a really simple song. I'll sing the first verse, jump in as soon as you're comfortable, but part of what makes this song so special is its simplicity and how easy it is to jump in. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere.
So this past Shabbat, this past week, we read Parshat Noah, and of course, we know that Noah is this wonderful, rich, primordial story about, again, a washing away of everything that was known and a rebuilding. And I know the theology is tricky when we start thinking about the way that we have the way the Torah says that flood came about, and also the way we've interpreted the destruction of the temple as a cosmic punishment. But if we step outside of that, of grappling with that for a moment, to just think about all the different ways that, all the different examples we have of crashes and rebuildings. So many different examples, and so many ways that we learn about who we should be based upon those. This song that I want to share with you, we sang with our youth actually on Sunday, and it is it's a beautiful tribute to the rainbow that emerges at the end of the story of Noah. And we talked about with them, and I think it's worth drawing out here, that the rainbow, this sign of hope and sign of love that has become so important in our community ethos, that this represents all the different ways that human beings are and show up in our community and in the world, and how much love we can have for one another in all of our varied colors and textures and differences. But that rainbow in the Torah shows up as a reminder that it doesn't flood and rain and storm forever. That rainbow is a reminder of the brit, the covenant that God has with humanity, that the sun will always come out at some point. Not as soon as we want, and not without a lot of turbulence, but the story that every culture has told since the beginning of time. We know that this story of this huge flood exists in lots of cultures, and the outcome is the same, which is there is that rebuilding brick by brick that happens afterwards, and that we learn something about who God wants us to be from that experience. So I want to share this song with you, and I hope you love it as much as I do, and to think about the ways that our strength and our joy and our determination in the face of flood and destruction and sorrow and breaking and crashing, that those combinations are where hope is born and where love is born and shows up. So it's really nice and easy, and meant to be sung a lot. So we're not going to do every word here, but I want to teach you the chorus, and couple of the little stanzas. So the chorus goes like this. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. That's it. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Let's try it one more time. Just make sure we have it. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. We're gonna go right underneath the chorus. There's a light, and it goes like this. There's a light shining through us. We are a kaleidoscope of hope. Try that. There's a light shining through us. We are a kaleidoscope of hope. It helps us all to see what love can truly be, a gift to set us free, pure and holy. Helps us all to see. It helps us all to see what love can truly be, a gift to set us free, pure and holy. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. We're down in the middle of that English stanza, and this is the verse that we taught and we sang with our kids because it's so much who we're going to have to be. Always, always, but now especially. I see you right beside me. There's never been another one like you. Do you see me right beside you? Holding on to this spinning arc of green and blue. So we've got it, it's already in us, right? I see you right beside me. There's never been another one like you. Do you see me right beside you? Holding on to this spinning arc of green and blue. 'Cause love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. I'd like to remind you, teach you the blessing upon seeing a rainbow. And I think now maybe a blessing for drawing out that kind of hope and that kind of love. So it's just Baruch Atah Adonai Zocher Habrit. We're not going to do the entire blessing there, just those words that we can all remember. And it goes like this. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Try that, Baruch Atah. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Zocher Habrit, Zocher Habrit. We can try that. Zocher Habrit, Zocher Habrit. 'Cause love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. are more than woman or man. There's a light shining through us. We are a kaleidoscope of hope. Helps us all to see what love can truly be. A gift to set us free, pure and holy. And I see you right beside me. There's never been another one like you. Do you see me right beside you? Holding on to the spinning arc of green and blue. Where love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love.
I want to take us back to a text that we've heard fairly recently here, and probably a good bit here, not just recently. It's one of my favorite texts in all of the Talmud, and we don't have it in front of you. But I think many of us will remember this story. Shalosh shanim nechlechu beit Shammai u'beit Hillel. 3 years, the houses of Shammai and the houses of Hillel were at an impasse. They had a difference of opinion. We usually don't get onto what the opinion's about. It's about Sukkot, but they have a difference of opinion, and for 3 years they just can't come to agreement about the right way to do this. Halalu omrim halacha kamotenu. The one says, the law is like the way I say. Halalu omrim halacha kamotenu. And the others say, no, it's like what we say. Yatzah bat kol. A divine voice rings out, which happens in all of our lives whenever we have a disagreement. Amra elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim hein. Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim hein. These and these are words of the living God. And it's such a beautiful teaching about moments of disagreement. But what's missing? I'm asking that question, by the way. What's missing? They have 3 years. They're divided on how to do this, and a divine voice says, "Both of you are speaking words of the living God." So what's next? Maybe compromise. Although neither of them spoke words of compromise yet. So what do you do? What do you do? We just heard one of those lovely answers of, oh, your words are divinely inspired. Your words are divinely inspired. But okay, but how do I build my sukkah? Like which one? These are diametrically opposed opinions. They can't coexist at the same time. You can't do both. And the story continues with two words in the Talmud, but there's an abbreviation. V'halacha k'veit Hillel. But the law is like Hillel. So in other words, these are divinely inspired words, but this heavenly voice, which we experience all the time, yelling out in our ears when we have a conflict, does say, but do it that way. That leads us to an interesting place, though, because the story is so lovely about disagreement, but kind of awful to be Shammai here. Yeah, those last words of the story really sting. So what happens when things don't go as you had hoped? In any conflict, there's inevitably going to be a Hillel and Shammai, and if the conflict's resolved, you're going to get to a point where you follow one. What the Talmud says next in this sugya, in this section, that's not so often quoted, I think speaks to this. What if expectations aren't met? So the Talmud continues to say, anyone who is humble, the Holy One of blessing will exalt them. And anyone who exalts themselves, the Holy One of blessing humbles. Anyone who seeks greatness, greatness flees from them, and conversely, anyone who flees from greatness, greatness seeks them. So in other words, sometimes our efforts and our aspirations and our outcomes get very muddled. The Talmud can be very good at describing these realities of life. And we get to the part of this that I enjoy the most. V'choa docheket hasha'ah, sha'a dochakto. If you press time, time presses back, literally. Anyone who forces the moment forces you. You force the moment, you expend such great effort to achieve what you're looking for, and guess what? Time pushes back. And perhaps all of that effort, no matter how hard you work, you're pressing against time, and time marches on in its own way and presses you back. V'chol nidche mipnei sha'a, sha'a omedet lo. But conversely, anyone who's patient and yields to the moment, that moment stands by their side. And I think that message, so often I think about this part of the story, or the beginning part of the story, and I've forgotten since seminary that these two stories go side by side. But there's a Shammai in the story, and there's a Hillel in the story, and time is fleeting. There's never enough time. Sometimes we feel stuck in time, and it crawls infuriatingly slowly. And that doesn't mean that we just have to stand and wait and be passive, but we take things one day at a time, no more, no less. And there comes a time, a right time, for everything under the sun. We just read that during Sukkot. Not always when we want it. Ecclesiastes is not so generous and says there's a time exactly when you want it for everything, but there is a time and it comes. We are all time's companions, one step at a time. Not time subjects, but time's companions, one step at a time. So I want to leave us with a song. The words come from what we say when we finish a book of Torah. It's a moment usually we associate with celebration, but really it's a moment when we close one book and we begin another. When we get to that moment, we say, Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. So we'll sing together, be strong. We link ourselves to each other, to our past, to our future. We strengthen one another, and yes, we're going to celebrate our lives too. Perhaps all of this precisely so that we can celebrate our lives. We do so and embrace the moment and embrace each other. We're not time subjects. We're its companion. The lyrics to the song are on the final page of our packet, page 7. We have come from near and far to raise our voice in song. And the more we join in the refrain, the more we feel strong. Chazak, Chazak Benit Chazek. There is a power in this place and time. It shapes the rest of our lives. For when we return each year, we find a truth we can't deny. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Chazak, Chazak, Benit Chazek. Chazak, Chazak, Benit Chazek. As we sing, we link ourselves to those who came before. And we're one with all those yet to come. Our strength, it will endure. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Chazak, Chazak. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Chazak, Chazak. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Chazak, Chazak. Chazak, Chazak. Be strong, be strong. Chazak, Chazak, Benit Chazek. Laila Tov. No, thank you.